We're going to have a little bit of an in-depth look at what the automation actions are that we can use and really how to build an automation. So let's start by creating an automation, and pretty much all the time I always select from scratch because I don't like any of these templates that they've got. So if we just start from scratch, that just gives us a blank slate. We don't have to delete anything. Then here we've got firstly a whole heap of different triggers that we can use to start an automation. Now by default you're on view all 24 triggers, and I don't usually look at any of these other things settings here. We'll just have a look at the defaults. Now for the majority of the time we'll be starting an automation when a tag is added. Now that's the default that I use for the majority of my automations. Sometimes you could use when a contact subscribes to a list, but you have to remember that whenever you import a list and they subscribe up to a list, that they may trigger that automation. So make sure you turn any automations that have that trigger off. And likewise, the same goes for if you add a tag when you import a whole heap of people, and that tag is a trigger for an automation. Make sure that automation is turned off, or you'll get 20,000 people in an automation all at once when you don't want them to be. So you've got subscribes to a list, unsubscribe, submit a form. These are all pretty standard. Some of the ones that may cause a little bit of confusion are these open, click, reply forward triggers, because they actually have a second option here. And the option is when a contact opens a campaign. Now a campaign could be a newsletter campaign, which is this sort of email button here, or it could be an email sent in any automation. That's also referred to as a campaign in ActiveCampaign. Or it could be a personal email. Now, a personal email is if you've integrated your Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook account, any sort of personal email account, to ActiveCampaign, and you're tracking the emails that you're sending, receiving to your personal email account. That's what this one here is on the right. Now, you'll have that option for the open, the click. I think it's also maybe the reply and forwards as well. Web page visited, that's pretty straightforward. Event is recorded, most of you probably won't be using that. Goal is achieved, date-based, that could be interesting for say something like Christmas or Black Friday day sales. You can just set up a recurring once a year automation for that. Makes a purchase, abandoned cart, they're really e-commerce integrations. Conversion occurs, again that's kind of an e-commerce type integration. Most of you won't set that up. RSS based, that could be if you've got a blog RSS feed on your website and you want to send out an automated email every time there's a new blog, you can set up an RSS based automation for that. Score changes, enters a pipeline. These are all really CRM triggers here. So we'll just assume that we're going to start it via a tag, and we'll just call this tag the trigger tag to be simple. Now we've got a few options here. We can set this automation to run one time, which means that it's only going to run the first time that tag is added to a contact. If the tag is then removed and then added again, they won't start this automation a second time. It only happens once. Or we could set up multiple times, which means every time that tag is added to a contact, then they'll enter this automation. Now how ActiveCampaign works is the contact could have that tag today, and then they could be added to that tag a second time tomorrow. And that tag, even if a tag is not removed between those two adds, that will still be counted as being added to a tag twice. And so that actually enter this automation twice, even if they already had the tag the second time. So you can add a segment here, not currently in the automation, and this one here is automation 4. I haven't named it yet, but that would just stop them entering this automation if they're already currently in this automation. Okay, so they could enter it multiple times provided that they're not currently in it, and that way you're not going to sort of annoy your contacts by sending them multiple emails. Now here we've got a few different sending options. We can send an email, which is the most default. That's pretty much what you'll be doing most of the time. Send a site message. Most accounts won't be using that. Send an SMS. I personally don't recommend sending SMSs via ActiveCampaign. I recommend setting this up via a webhook to Zapier and then integrating with TextMagic, which is a great text marketing platform that you can use, very cheap, and it's two-way and all those sort of things. Notification email, which you would send that to your team. You can send up to 5 email addresses. Could be something as simple as new contact, subscribe to this opt-in, hooray, blah, blah. It could even be something like call this contact because they visited our coaching page. So those are basically our 4 types of sending. Now, if you do want to send a SMS via a webhook, then you'd use the webhook step. Now, the 2 main sort of actions that most people will be using when they're building out are the send an email action and the wait action. Now, the wait action has a few different options here. We can just wait for a period of time, and the minimum time here I think is 5 minutes that we can wait for. Or we can wait until a condition is true. Now here we've got all the different options for conditions. We've got tags, we've got stages, we've got pretty much everything that you can hope for in a condition. So we can just wait until the user has the tag opt-in ebook exists, and we could wait up to 3 days or whatever if we wanted to, or we could just wait indefinitely for that tag to exist. Now they'll just wait at that step until this is true, because we haven't put a wait until. So that's a wait step. Next, we've also got an if-else step. So again, we've got all those same sort of conditions that you saw in the wait step. You've got all the different conditions that we could do here. So we could say wait until the year in Western Australia is 2021, or is greater than, or on is 2021 or higher than. So we'll just say that for an example. And so you can add pretty much any of those logic steps. You can also double step these if you really wanted to. So you could do if this is true, then also check for if this is true. You could also do that in this stage here. So you could say if this is true, and if this is true, or. And so how this would work is, say if we had multiple steps up here, so say the year is 2021 or higher, and they also have the tag opt-in ebook, or we'll say the year is on or after 2021 and they have a different tag, which maybe they have the newsletter tag, for instance. This way, either these set of conditions, which are AND conditions, if you had it as an OR condition, it means either this one condition or this second condition will be successful for the filter, or both of these conditions, because we've got the AND, need to be successful for the filter. And you can build up quite a really in-depth filtering here by building those conditions. Now, I think you're limited to maybe 5 conditions per segment group, which is what ActiveCampaign refers to here. And I think you can only have 5 segment groups by memory. But yeah, that's really the if-else step, which is really a handy step that you'll be using. The go-to, that's really if you'd use that in the if-else logic steps. If this is true, then maybe go to this logic step here. It wouldn't make any sense, but you could maybe put an email in here. So if it is no, then send this email, then check for this logic step here. That would make sense. Next, we can also start automations. We can also end automations, any automation, and then we can end this automation as well. Perform map, this one actually was only just it was only recently introduced, but you can basically change dates, you can change numbers, perform math on different fields for a contact. Could be useful for maybe if you wanted to manipulate a number for a contact based on where they are in an automation. I personally haven't used that yet. Now, generally, how you would build an automation is like this. Most automations have this structure, is what I should say. So we've got, say, an email. I'm not going to add any content here. We're just going to save and exit this. Okay. So most automations would have an email, then a wait, then they'll probably have maybe another email, maybe another wait. Most of the time that wait is just going to be a wait for 2 or 3 days. Wait for 1 day, say. Okay. And then they will generally, an automation will end with a goal. And the goal could be, signs up for something, schedules a call. And again, for the goal, we can use a filter. So we can say this goal is true and correct when the tag schedule call exists. Okay, now for the goal step, we've got a few different options here. We can select when this goal is below a contact's position or when this goal is anywhere. So that means that the contact could be below the goal and then that contact will jump back to wherever that goal was in the automation. We can also trigger a conversion event when this goal is achieved. We haven't configured any conversion events yet, but you could add one if you wanted to. And then you can set here that if the contact does not meet this goal, then we can just let them pass the goal. So, the gate's always open, they can always just go past it. We can wait until the goal conditions are met, or we can end this automation. So, the gate is closed until they know the password, or, too bad, so sad, you didn't know how to get in. That's as far as you're ever going to get. You just end the automation. So a goal, and then generally you'd have an end this automation after it. So you'd have a trigger, email, wait, maybe a few more emails and waits, then a goal, which is the purpose of sending these emails. There's always going to be a purpose for sending an email. And the goal is generally at the end, because if they've achieved the purpose, maybe these emails here are asking them to schedule a call. As soon as they schedule a call, that user will then jump to this goal, and then they'll end the automation. And then maybe they'll start another automation in ActiveCampaign. So that's the goal step. Now the webhook step, that's really easy. You can just grab a URL from Zapier, and whenever a contact reaches that point in the automation, all their contact data, including all their contact fields, will be sent to that URL, and then you can do whatever you like with it in Zapier or whatever other system you're using there. You can also subscribe and unsubscribe users in the automation. You can update different details. You can add tags, remove tags, add notes to a user, add and remove them to custom audiences in Facebook. Really helpful, because maybe after they schedule a call, you want to add them to a custom audience that is specific for showing them ads based on pre-call to help get that sale when you're on the call with them. You can adjust a score, and we'll talk about setting up contact scores later on. And then you've got all these CRM options. So you can add deals, add titles, update titles, statuses, owners, values, tasks, notes. We're not going to get into detail about this, but you can basically change deals in the CRM inside an automation, and then you can also create a lead in Salesforce. But for most of the time, you'll be using send an email, maybe send a notification, wait certainly, if else, go to, goal, and then if you're building out logic trees, start an automation, end another automation, and then possibly webhooks. So the main two panels you'd be looking at are your sending options and your conditions and workflow. That's really the two windows that you'd be looking at. These other two, that's only really once you're building out quite considerable logic trees that you'd be looking at using any of these actions. So this here is what is called a straight line automation, and it's the most basic, most simple automation that you can build in ActiveCampaign, and it's generally how I build pretty much 9 out of 10 of the automations in here. The only ones that won't look like this, as simple as a straight line, it's just one thing after the next, generally ending in a goal and then end this step, are things like logic automations. or master automations, where they've got massive logic trees and we're asking all these different questions to figure out what automation or what email to send the user. So hopefully that's given you a quick rundown on all the different actions in ActiveCampaign, how to use them when you're building out an automation, and just give you a little bit more idea behind how to build out a well-structured basic automation like this one, a straight line automation. Hi, I'm Mitch Bayless, and if you're looking for someone to help you with your business automation, then click the button below to schedule your free call today. And if you found this video useful, remember to click like, and also subscribe to our channel for more videos.